Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. I'm glad that you guys keep clicking. If you guys keep clicking, I'll keep making. And today we're going to be talking about, does Survivor 41 really suck? Because all of this hate that this season has gotten from the online community has been, in my opinion, pretty unwarranted. I've actually really liked the season, and so I want to kind of defend the season and also just go through kind of all of the parts of this season, not necessarily like going through every part, but talking about what could possibly make this season quote unquote bad or quote unquote good, and what the season needs more of and less of to make it better and or good. But before we start, 72% of you guys who are watching these videos aren't subscribed. Let's change that. It's easy and it's free. And if that's it, let's get right into this video. So the community has kind of uproared in the past week. I think after episode 3 aired is really where I heard the most of it. I did hear a little bit after episode 2 because it was a drop off from episode 1 to episode 2. But I have heard the community from when episode 3 aired to the day before episode 4 aired. There was a lot of backlash from the community about the overabundance of advantages, and really it's not even that as much as the confusion about it, and then also just the over editing in of the advantages when they really didn't amount to anything in episode 3 because the person who had all of them got voted out. And it seemed like people were really angry that the entire episode centered around advantages when they thought that it should be, centering around people, and that was the main critique of episode 3 as a whole. And so let's get into the season so far. I'm going to go episode by episode, and I'll give you the audience reaction to each episode and how the super fan community as a whole react positively and or negatively depending on how bad or good the episode was. So the first episode, we got a very new feeling. There was new tricks, new editing tricks, new twists. There was the Beware Advantage being introduced. It was we hadn't gotten the Beware Advantage yet, but we had gotten like the ship's wreck island, or the ship wheel island. We had gotten so many new things. It felt like a very fresh show. The audience loved it as a whole. It was a 2-hour premiere, and so that kind of made it like it almost had to be good, and it was very good. The only negatives from that episode was that the first boot, Abraham, was a pretty boring and predictable boot. But as far as the Sarah boot, it was much more entertaining, and overall I think we got a really, really good episode. The community also agreed with me on that, and that I feel like everyone really liked the first episode, aka the premiere, because it really just had everything in a Survivor episode that you wanted. And overall, it being 2 hours definitely didn't hurt its chances to be considered a good episode. The second episode, I think this episode is the worst episode of the season so far out of 1, 2, and 3, and 4. I feel like out of all of those episodes, 2 is the easily the worst episode ever in this season. I feel like episode 2 focused way too much on Yase. We got, I believe, one scene with Ua and no scenes with Luvu, other than a Nasir update as to where Nasir has been, and that's a whole another conversation for later in this video as to the editing of the tribes. But we got I think a scene with Nasir in episode 2, and we got a scene with the Ua tribe after they got back from tribal. Other than that, it was an all Yase episode, which I really didn't like because the Yase tribe isn't necessarily the most entertaining tribe out of all of them. Now, I don't think they're as entertaining as Luvu is, at least up to that point, like what Luvu was. But I do think that overall the Yase tribe was not the tribe that needed to be focused on that much when the boot wasn't even that entertaining. It was a 4-1 or a 3-2 vote. No, it was a 3-1 vote because Xander couldn't vote. We and on top of that, we got introduced to this very confusing advantage in the Beware Advantage, in which we were all wondering, okay, but this is so rigged because now Xander has no vote, and it really did kind of screw up the whole game. And this is when you started to hear chirps from the community about how bad the season was going, and how bad that it was going to be. I think overall, for me, this episode is easily the worst, but the community found the next episode to be much, much worse. Episode 3. So I actually looked at this episode when it ended, and when we were in our post-game show, I actually called it a rebound episode. I thought it was much better than the last episode. I didn't really mind the overabundance of advantages. Obviously, I'd rather they not lean on that or not do it every single episode. But I like the idea of Brad kind of building Brad up as advantage. That he has so many advantages, and then we're just gonna boom, he's out, he's gone, he got blindsided, and so. I like that, but this is when the community started to go nuts. They were so mad because the entire like the entire episode was just advantage. There was the island with the advantages. There was Brad with the advantages. There was Brad telling Chantel. It was Xander and Brad talking at the challenge. Everything was advantages. It was really never about character building in this episode for sure. And this made a lot of people mad. Specifically, the Survivor specialists were very, very unhappy with this episode. I remember watching their post-game show, and it was just 40 minutes of them just absolutely roasting Survivor. I think a lot of people on Twitter were also not very happy with this third episode. And people just really did not like the fact that they only focus on the advantages. I personally liked it just for the one episode because it made sense to build Brad up as this guy who has all these advantages and then just knock him down, and it'd be like the rise and fall of Brad. I feel like that's a better story arc than if they just showed Brad as a person and like how he fell after that. I feel like that's less build up to his boot. And then episode 4, which just aired a day after, or a day before I'm recording this, and a day before it'll drop on my channel. Episode 4, from the fans' perspective, was a rebound episode. I also think it's a rebound episode, except I actually thought that they rebounded in episode 3, and that this just only built on top of that. I think that personally, that this is by far the best episode of the season so far for me, because it did what the premiere did, and it was just as good as the premiere, except the premiere had 2 hours to do so. So I feel like, considering that, this is probably an overall better overall episode because of the fact that this episode was able to do what the premiere did in half the time. I think the storyline of Yase, we didn't get a lot from Yase, which I'm actually okay with, because we got so much from them in episode 2 that we almost don't even need them for the rest of the pre-merge. And then as far as on Ua, I feel like we got what we needed, which is them going to tribal, because they were the tribe that we had that we actually care about. They have Chantel and JD that we care about, and we've obviously seen 2 crazy boots come from their tribe in the Sarah boot and the Brad boot, and we had Luvu finally giving us some screen time. And speaking of screen time, Heather and Erica, the 2 people who had gotten Heather, Erica, and Jeannie, the three people who had gotten no screen time, who I had called purple edited people before this episode came out, finally got a bunch of screen time. And on the Luvu tribe, we got a super fun storyline with them trying to throw the challenge, and it's super fun. And Deshaun's in the challenge trying to throw, but then Nasir just wins the challenge like single-handedly, and we got the best of that, because we didn't get the obvious boot, because they had set it up as a very obvious boot. We're gonna throw the challenge to vote out Erica, and so if they had actually gone and threw the challenge successfully, it would have not been a fun boot, because we would have already known. So, but we still got the fun storyline, and then we actually got the tribe that we wanted to go to tribal, and that was the most interesting. Going to tribal, actually go to tribal in Ua. And so it ended up working out for the best as to who went to tribal, who got certain storylines. And I feel like overall episode 4 is definitely the best episode for me, and the fans overall see it as a great bounce back episode for sure. Next, I want to talk about what made episodes 2 and 3 weaker episodes, in my opinion, and also in the fan base's opinion as well. So overall, episode 2 seemed to be more focused on Yase than any other tribe. And although Yase is full of very interesting people in Tiffany, Xander, and Evie, Liana's a little bit of a dud. I feel like more of a dud than the other 3, but I think definitely those 3 are very interesting people, with Evie being in complete control of the tribe, Xander being a very smart and intelligent guy in the body of a guy who usually, or the body of an archetype that usually isn't very smart and intelligent, and he's kind of playing from the bottom in a way. And then we have Tiffany, like the crazy lady. She's a little bit older, and she's not the best player, but it's fun to watch her kind of crash and burn. And so we had 3 very interesting people, but I feel like you can only put them on the screen for so long before it becomes like, okay, please get them off the screen and get Ua and Luvu on my screen. And speaking of Ua and Luvu, we got nothing from them in this episode, and I feel like that's really what sold this episode as a very bad episode, in my personal opinion. Not that it was bad necessarily, but it definitely wasn't near episodes 1 or 4, or really 3 personally for me. I feel like this episode had too much Yase and not enough Ua and Luvu, and I think that overall we got way too much from one tribe, and that took away from the other two tribes developing storylines that we started to get in the premiere. Now I want to talk about what specifically made 1 and 4 really really good episodes. So 1, obviously it's the premiere, so it kind of gets that added boost of the hype going in, and also we had a year and a half break, so that made it was even more hype. I think for the premiere it felt different. It felt new and fresh. They tried new editing tricks. They tried new twists. The island twist was actually like what worked out in this episode, and it didn't add any crazy advantages. There wasn't any beware stuff. It was just like a basic prisoner's dilemma, which was balanced and actually really fun to watch as a viewer, because then you could put yourself in that situation. I think overall we got introduced to a great cast, and I feel like that's another thing with this season is it's a great cast, and to get introduced to it pretty well in this episode, I believe everybody on the entire cast got a confessional, and overall it was just a great premiere. I think it competes for one of the best premieres ever. I think maybe Heroes vs. Villains beats it out just because of the epic opening, and then maybe seasons like I'm trying to think. Maybe Kaguyan's premiere beats it out, but other than that, I can't think of a premiere that was as good as the season 41 premiere was. On top of that, we ended it with a crazy live tribal with Ua, and the double boot really helped us understand now two tribes situations as far as who's aligned and things like that. And then the reason why I think that 4 was, the episode 4 was received so well is that it had all three tribes shown, and the one tribe that really wasn't shown a lot was the tribe that we already got so much from. So really, it focused on Ua and Luvu, which hadn't gotten as much screen time up until this point as Yase did. And I feel like we also got the reward challenge with Heather, so we finally got content from Heather, and then also with Erica, with her going to Deshawn on Luvu. And speaking of Luvu, we finally got Luvu's alliances. Now we finally have them not necessarily set in stone, but we at least understand. From before this episode aired, we had kind of just been guessing the alliances on Luvu because we had no idea, because they were literally shown for no time, and when they were, it was just either trash on or build up Nasir. It was never about Erica or Heather or Deshawn or Danny or Sydney. And I think we got a better gauge of who these people are, in specific who Erica is, who Sydney is, and who Deshawn is. And we already got Danny in the premiere with him going to the island, and we got Heather in this episode as well with the challenge. And I feel like overall with this episode, I see more of like an equal distribution of screen time. Also on top of that, people like this one better because of the fact that it was not focused on advantages. The advantages were not the main focus of the episode. They were not the payoff of this episode. It was more focused on building the characters and just building basic storylines. And as I said earlier, the challenge one really carried that middle part of the episode. The start was carried by the Heather situation and the craziness of the Ua tribe and JD and Chantel, and then the end was also carried by the craziness of the Ua tribe. And so I feel like each part of this episode like just kind of fit its part very well, and there wasn't like a second in this episode where I'm just like oh my god, can we move on to the next scene. It was very exciting from start to finish. Now I want to talk about the overabundance of advantages. So I want to discuss whether the post merge is going to be filled with with all these advantages, because when they had first done this island twist in the first episode and then the second episode, I was worried that they were going to do it every single episode, which would have really clogged the game up with extra votes and sealed votes. And then at the merge, you would have like 9 of them in the game, which is a very scary thought. But it seems like they've stopped doing this. Now they did do the Night Island in episode 3, but the person who got the advantage at least got sent home. And so I feel like with the advantages, they're doing better at not just pumping the game full of them every single episode, and instead trying to focus on their characters that they need to build for the post merge. And I definitely think that if the post merge isn't clogged with all these advantages, then the post merge can be received as well as episode 4 was. Next, I want to choose whether the post merge is going to be better than the pre merge. Do I think that the post merge is going to be better than the pre merge? I would say probably. I think that the pre-merge has its highs and its lows. I think the post-merge is either going to be consistently average or consistently good, which is better than this pre-merge that it's been kind of up and down, like, highs and valleys. I feel like with the post-merge, it really just depends on how entertaining the Luvu tribe is. If the Luvu tribe sticks together and then gets Pagong, or six together and then Pagongs the other tribes, either of those scenarios are not fun to watch. But if the Luvu tribe can kind of intermingle with both the Ua and the Yase tribe, if one tribe just doesn't get decimated, whether that's the Yase, Ua, or Luvu tribe, I feel like that's more entertaining, and that's going to decide whether this post merge as a whole can go down as a top 5, 10, 15 post merge in Survivor history. Okay, when should we merge? When is it best to merge for this season? I feel like you give them 2 more episodes. I feel like they're going to give them 1 more. I feel like this next episode is the last episode of the pre-merge. But if I was them, I would give them 2 more episodes and hope that Luvu at least lost one or both of those challenges. I think what you should do is either do 2 more or do 1 more episode where only one tribe is safe from tribal and the other 2 who come in second and third go to tribal. I feel like going into the merge with 11 people is more entertaining than going in with 12 people, and historically the odd number merges are more entertaining than going in with 12, because that's more of kind of just like, I would much rather like it'd be like, are they going to flip back and forth than like 6 versus 6, let's draw rocks. That's the former is more entertaining to me than the latter, personally. Speaking of Luvu needing to go to tribal, Luvu needs to go to tribal. I want Luvu to go in with 5 people so that they can't either, one, just decimate the other 2 tribes or get decimated, like for example the Tandang tribe did in Philippines. And so I feel like if Luvu can, one, go to tribal, one, so that we can not have the Ua or Yase tribes just go into the merge with like 2 people, which is not what you want, because then they're either just going to run the whole season or just get picked off at the start, which neither of those is very entertaining or like very unpredictable, and we've seen it before. And I feel like, 2, I need the Luvu people to kind of test their alliances out, so instead of going in and then they all just split off, I want them to go in with factions in their tribe that have been defined through a vote, and and them knowing who is loyal to them for real after they go to tribal once in the pre-merge. All right, first, how does these 4 episodes compare to the other 4 episodes, or the other first 4 episodes of other seasons? So I feel like if you combine the good and the bad from these first 4 episodes, it's probably ranks like somewhere maybe 18th, 16th. I think it's in the top half, because there hasn't been many other premieres that have topped this premiere, and episode 4 was a great pre-merge episode that really I can't think of a pre-merge episode that's topped it since David vs. Goliath, and so that automatically puts it in that A-S tier type of place. And I do feel like overall with this season, if we have a post-merge that's nearly as good as these first 4 episodes have been, we're looking at an at least above average season, which is 20th or above from there. So 20th, 19th, 18th, etc. And I just want to point out, the people who are saying this season sucks, we haven't even gotten close to the merge. It's not even merge. How in the world are you going to make a decision on the season after the season hasn't even merged? I think that's so stupid, and I personally think that's not the way to look at to judge a season. You can't make a decision like that so early when the game hasn't even really started yet. Okay, I just want to talk about the editing so far. I feel like the editing so far has been very experimental with Jeff breaking the 4th wall. Now, I don't necessarily know if I like Jeff breaking the 4th wall or not. I think Jeff breaking the 4th wall sometimes is cool, like very rarely, but most of the time it comes across as very cringy and kind of forced, like almost like for the kids back at home watching, with their family, which is, I mean, obviously I'm not a kid watching, like a little 5 or 8-year-old kid watching with my family. So I don't find it personally very cool. I find it more cringy, if anything else, but I understand that he's doing it for that demographic. As far as like the slow-mo shots, again, kind of for that one, it's more 50-50, hit or miss. I do like the previously on Survivor from episode 3, where Evie, like, kind of narrates it, and they actually make like a whole montage. I feel like that was a nice callback to when they used to do that. I think overall this season has a lot to offer as far as this reverse editing is really, really cool, and they've now done it, I think, almost in every episode at this point, if not maybe missing one episode, but they've done it at least 3 times now, which is pretty cool. I don't want them to do it every episode. I feel like that makes it get old, and then you start to wonder, okay, like every scene, like you go in thinking, okay, is this one out of order? Is this one out of order? Like, and then you almost kind of get too caught up in trying to figure out the order of a scene when Survivor has been so clearly like in a very in order show. Like it says day X, day Y, like day 21, day 28. Like it's very in order, and so if you have to start guessing, is this in order? Is this not in order? Then it becomes not very fun to watch as a viewer. So one thing that is kind of negative so far is that they have been doing a different type of editing style where they are building up these characters in the pre-merge just to let them crash and burn. Usually you see that like once in the pre-merge with like someone who they build up in the edit, and like you're like supposed to really like them, and then they just get pooped on and just they're out, like your Allie from HHH or your Aubrey from 38, where they like really like edit them very heavy and make you root for them really, really hard, whether it's within their boot episode or just overall throughout the whole post merge, like it was for Allie. I feel like they're doing that more often now. I feel like they're doing it with almost every boot aside from Abraham, and aside from maybe Voce. I think with Sarah, they did it with her grandma having COVID. With Brad, they did it because he's like, oh, he has all these advantages. He's set up perfectly in the game. Oh, he's gone. And then JD, they built him out. They kind of built him up over the whole season as this big fan favorite. Oh no, he's actually gone. At 4th place or 5th place or whatever he ends up being. And so I feel like overall, I think that the editing style as far as the boots is definitely different. And I don't know how I necessarily feel about it yet, and I'll have to get back to you guys after the season ends as to whether or not it's a good way to edit. I do think it has its flaws though, because when you get connected to someone and they get loaded out, like personally, after episode 4, I remember saying to my buddy Skylander, who I do the post-game show with, that was a great episode, but that boot really stung because we were really, really supposed to be rooting for JD, and then he just gets absolutely blindsided. And so I do feel like it's a risky way to edit, and you don't want to do it too much because then the people will only get connected to the pre-merge boots, and that's never very, very fun to watch as a viewer, to watch all of your favorites go out pre-merge even before the jury. I gotta say, this is a great cast as far as like on paper casting. Obviously, the editing has been a little bit back and forth with some of the purples early on, but I think it's definitely improved as the season has gotten to episode 4. But I think overall on paper, this cast is fantastic. They did a good this is good diversity. There's bad diversity in like seasons like Fiji, and there's good diversity. And I feel like this season is definitely good. I feel like this season shows that when you get good diverse people, then you can get different perspectives from around the world and people who think differently, and it all meshes very well, but also doesn't mesh well in good ways. Whereas in bad diversity, it's just getting people who look different. Oh, you're a different color, you act different, that's it. Okay, great, diverse. That's not very good diversity. And also, for me, more importantly, age diversity. There's a lot of 30 plus year olds in this season, who, and even 40 and 50 plus people on the season, which is great. I don't like when there's just like a token old person. I feel like that leads to a worse cast overall because you don't have as many perspectives from older ages and as many wise people on your season, versus with this one, you have many people over the age of 30, 40, and even 50. So tell me, what would you rank these first 4 episodes on a scale 1 to 10? Rank it. 1 being they're terrible, they're worse than the first 4 episodes of Thailand. 10 being they're like almost as good as the first 4 episodes, or they're even better than the first 4 episodes of Cagayan. Give me a scale. For me, they probably rank 7.5. I'm gonna go with that. Tell me if you disagree. Tell me your number, and maybe if it's not crazy, I'll like it in the comments. And that's it, y'all. Next video is going to be on if Chantel made the right move last tribal, voting out JD. I feel like if she makes the right move here, she goes very, very far. If she doesn't, it could be a really, really bad spot for her. I'm actually just going to summarize her whole game, go through all of her moves, all of the possible scenarios that she could have gone with but didn't, and why, and whether that was a good thing or a bad thing. I'm actually going to record that right now after I'm done recording this video. So yeah, guys, like, sub, most importantly, hit the notification bell and continue to give me suggestions in the comments. This does not work without any of your support. You guys continue to come back, and I will continue to make these videos. And if that's it, guys, I will talk to you guys later.